Alright, so I'm back, and today we are going to continue on the Lord of the Rings kind of week. We just did the Last of the Hobbits movies yesterday, and so today we're going to talk about the Fellowship of the Ring. Now, I do not have the theatrical movies anymore. I gave those away once I got extended versions, which, if you're a fan of these movies, get the extended versions if you haven't already. They are by far the superior versions of the movie. They are really, really good. And the you know, it adds in, I think, 20 extra minutes to the movie, I think. But also, it's got 3 discs of behind the scenes making of. You know, this one is like the starting of the filming and stuff like that, and just all around some really good stuff, interviews, and it's really good. So, needless to say, spoilers ahead, because I'm going to talk about the movie. Now, I love these movies a lot. So I love the books when I was a kid. I mean, this is what I grew up on. This and Transformers. So yeah, I love this movie, and I think Peter Jackson did an incredible job on putting such a hard book to film onto film. I mean, the undertaking that this must have been for him and everyone else involved just must have been exhausting, because you don't get that very often, where a film company's like, you know what, go ahead and do a trilogy right off the bat and get those movies released every single year for 3 years. You don't get that. I mean, Star Wars took years and years in between films. Prequel Star Wars took years before films. Even this Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has got to be one of the better turnovers when it comes to movies, usually takes about 2 years in between each individual movie, and it's taken about 3 years in between Avengers, I believe. So things like that are, I mean, if you take that into account, it's like, okay, you've got this movie coming out, you know, first, and then the next 2 have to be out in the next 2 years. I mean, that's just, blown away. So, yeah, this movie does start off with the actual war with Sauron that happened centuries and centuries ago, and we've got elves and men, final alliance, fighting off the orc. Really cool opening sequence. I mean, it kind of gets you knowing what's at stake right off the bat. In the books, it doesn't really do that. It just kind of starts off at Bilbo's party. But this one, at least, it's got a little background. It also goes through, you know, right before this battle scene, it also goes through briefly, but the forging of the rings. The 7 for the dwarves, the 3 for the elves, the 9 for the men, and then Sauron creates the 1 ring. And you know, it's fun to watch that stuff. Yeah, you know, they could have just put it in exposition later on by Gandalf or something like that, like it actually did happen in the book, because he goes into, you know, the forging of the rings and stuff like that, and all that. But I think it was more fun and more entertaining to watch it unfold, like right before your eyes. So that was really great. Again, yeah, I'm not going to go too much depth on these versions. I'm just going to point out some of my favorite scenes and alterations that Jackson did from the books, both good and bad. Now, you know, in the theatrical version, when they're all in the woods with Gladriel, and she gives everybody presents. In the theatrical version, you see her give Frodo the light, and I think you see her give some knives to the other hobbits, but that's really all there was. In the extended version, she actually goes in giving everybody their gifts, and which was I thought was a critical part of the book. You know, they meet up with this elf chick, and she gives them all things that will help them in their quest, and every single one of them used everything they got. Pippin and Merry used the daggers. Merry used the dagger against the Witch King. Sam got a rope, and he used that a lot. They have dagger or cloaks to help them become invisible. They use those, or not invisible, but hide in rocks and stuff like that. They use those in the movie. Frodo obviously uses the light. We know that, and Gimli, he got hairs from her head, which he didn't really use, but in the book it says that he ties them around his axe, and he always kept it with him. And then Legolas got a new bow. So, that was one of those scenes where they took it out of the theatrical, but I think they should have left it in. There were other things that they cut out that were like, whatever. But that one was pretty, I thought was pretty important. I think they should have left that in. Let's see. Peter Jackson did decide to cut out the whole Tom Bombadil thing, and I know a lot of people were torn on that one. I am on his side on it. It wasn't that much of a critical scene for me in the book. Actually, to be completely honest, which, I mean, I'm always honest on my videos, but to be completely honest, it bored me to tears. I was just like, this is dreadful. And you got to think of, what the purpose of that story was in the books. One of the purposes was he told, in his own way, he told them about the Rings of Power. But we already saw that. We saw that at the beginning of the movie. So we didn't really need to see it again that soon. Also, you get the Barrow Whites chasing them, and that was again one of those scenes. It's like it's not that necessary, because quickly afterwards we have the ring wraiths chasing them, and wraiths top whites hands down. So, and it was much more intimidating, and it had you watched that and then quickly gone to the next one, it would have lost momentum. So I thought it was a good decision to take that out. Everything else in the movie was pretty close to the books. They didn't call Strider as long as I would have liked, because in the books they called him Strider for a long time. But in this one, they pretty much quickly went back to Aragorn right away. Another thing I think they changed, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Elrond, who is in the books, as far as I remember, was half elf, half human, was kind of younger, and I don't think he was there at the battle when Sauron fell. So, again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I have to reread the books to find out, but and I'm not going to do that real quick while I'm in the middle of the videos. But I'm pretty sure that's what I remember, and I'm pretty sure he was not involved in that. Could be wrong. Who knows? But yeah, let's see. We get to see the fall of Saruman, and not really the fall, but the betrayal of Saruman, which we don't now watching the third Hobbit, now we don't really know how the fall took place, but we get a pretty good idea because in the last Hobbit movie, he realized he didn't have enough power to stand against Sauron, not even close, and he's going to the highest power or highest bidder, really. Jackson did he in the Mines of Moria. This was a scene that did bother me a little bit when I first saw it, and still to this day it kind of bothers me. But at the same time, I've moved past it. I've spent many hours like kind of grumbling about it. But there's a scene in there when the Fellowship is running from all the goblins, and you see them coming out of ceilings and crawling across the walls like a bunch of ants. And it's like, yes, I understand that that's an intimidating scene, and helps set the tone of being overwhelmed. But as far as I know, goblins don't crawl on walls like spiders. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't think that's how they would work. And it kind of bugged me. Kind of took me out of the movie for a second there. Of course, you get the famous scene of the Balrog coming out and Gandalf doing the whole "You shall not pass" thing on the bridge, and that was good. Let's see. And then you get the ambush at Amon Hen, which was awesome. In the books, it was just a bunch of orcs that attacked them, sent by Saruman, but they just attacked them. And this time, you find out that these particular orcs are Uruk-hai, which Saruman made himself and sent out personally, with Lurtz as the commander. They don't say his name in the movie, but I know his name. And that's the first time in my life I've ever seen an orc stand up, to somebody else. Because usually orcs are like the weaklings and they get beat up pretty quickly and cast out. But Lurtz, he kills Boromir. In the books, it was just a number of arrows that hit him from random orcs. In this one, it was Lurtz by himself. He was the one that shot him with the arrows, and he was about to decapitate him. And then Aragorn comes in, and they get into a huge fight, and Lurtz ends up getting killed. But it was the first time you ever actually see an orc that's like able to go toe to toe with these kind of people. These kind of people are usually top tier humans, and they just cut right through orcs without much problem. Even the rest of Uruk-hai were getting cut down pretty easily. So it was really cool to see that. And in the books, like I said, Boromir gets shot by a number of different orcs. This time it was just the one orc, which was cool because it just kind of painted how badass Lurtz was, but also how badass these Uruk-hai could get. So that was really cool. I'm trying to think of anything else that they really changed. I mean, we get the wraiths at the beginning of the movie, which was awesome. I'm a huge fan of the wraiths. I mean, they make such great villains for a story like this because they're beyond powerful. Legolas was the one that was supposed to find the whole company and save Frodo and bring him to Rivendell real quick. But they changed it to the girl elf, Arwen. Arwen. So that was one of those scenes that they changed, but at the same time, I don't have a problem with it because Legolas gets plenty of screen time in the next few movies, or in this movie and the next two movies, and she didn't have much screen time to begin with. just kind of behind the scenes. So it was kind of cool to see her actually do something worthwhile prior to, well, just in general. So, you know, a lot of people were upset that they changed that, but quite frankly, I mean, it wasn't that much. I mean, yeah, it was an important scene, but Legolas's character in that scene wasn't the most important. So, I mean, they could switch the characters out, and I'm fine with that. Personally, I don't know about you guys, but the movie itself is it is slow paced. You get the action sequence at the beginning of the movie, and then about 3/4 through, you get the Moria scene, which doesn't last too long, and then you get the ambush at the very end, and it just, you know, it is slow. But at the same time, you're getting to know these characters. You get to know everybody in the company. You know, Legolas and Gimli, they don't trust each other. Boromir resents Aragorn. Sorry. He resents him because he's king and he's not. And, you know, his family's just the stewards watching the throne. You know, Gandalf is the lovable wizard with, you know, a lot of wisdom and stuff like that. You get to know the hobbits and, you know, how Sam is truly loyal to Frodo, and Frodo is loyal to the quest, and Merry and Pippin are loyal to pot. How else can you put those two? That's all they do is just smoke, and smoke. But all in all, it was a really good movie, fun, entertaining movie. It is a necessary movie that it's a little bit slower paced than the rest. Because, like I said, you get character development in this one. Not all the characters throughout the entire series are developed in this movie, but all the main characters are developed, and then the rest kind of come later. So you kind of get a sense of, you get a feel for the world too. You know, it's the first time you really get to know what the world is, and that's really, it's a lot of fun. So all in all, I'm gonna give The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really solid movie. Nothing in this one that I would really change myself. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I mean, really good movie. I can't think of too many issues I had with it. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a guy that likes action movies and, you know, stuff like that, so I would have liked to see more action, but it's just being true to the source material, so I can't fault it for that. But yeah, all in all, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. If you're not into these kind of fantasy movies, then you're not going to watch any of these. So there you go. Fellowship of the Ring. Tomorrow we will talk about Two Towers.